In the fall of 1968, in a hotel room in Washington, D.C., two finance ministers sat down for a meeting they didn't want anyone to hear. Before either man said a word, one of them walked over to the television and cranked the volume all the way up. Not to watch the show, but to drown out any listening device that might be hidden in the walls. What they were about to discuss was, technically, a violation of an American ban. And the country that pulled it off would go on to build one of the most successful sovereign wealth funds on Earth, a fund that today manages hundreds of billions of dollars for a nation with almost no natural resources of its own. This is the story of how Singapore quietly outmaneuvered the world's biggest economies and the eccentric, ruthlessly disciplined man who made it happen. Today, this island city-state is the fourth largest financial hub in the world, home to one of the busiest shipping ports and a top-ranked international airport. Singapore maintains one of the highest standards of living on Earth and a technologically advanced military, all supported by some of the lowest tax rates anywhere. Yet, the nation possesses a tiny land area and zero natural resources. The foundation of this modern wealth lies in two state investment vehicles, Temasek Holdings and the Government of Singapore Investment Corporation, or GIC. While Temasek manages corporate assets, GIC is the older, more strategic engine tasked with securing the nation's long-term survival. In August 1965, Singapore split from Malaysia after just 2 years in the Federation. The political divorce immediately threatened the young island's financial survival. Both territories had previously shared the Malaysian dollar, but in December 1966, Kuala Lumpur announced it would launch its own independent currency, the ringgit. Talks to establish a shared central bank collapsed over the critical issue of reserve control. With no agreement in sight, both nations signed a treaty on August 17, 1966, to launch separate currencies. On June 12, 1967, Singapore issued its own dollar. The International Monetary Fund urged the new nation to set up a standard central bank capable of printing money to manage the economy. However, Finance Minister Lim Kim San and his predecessor, Dr. Goh Keng Swee, rejected the International Monetary Fund's proposal. They believed a young, unrecognized state could not afford the temptation of printing unbacked currency. Instead, they chose a rigid currency board system. The rules were uncompromising. Every single Singapore dollar in circulation had to be backed 100% by gold and foreign reserves. These assets were kept entirely out of domestic reach, held securely in the financial vaults of London and New York. By stripping the government of discretionary monetary power, Lim and Goh purchased immediate global credibility. But this extreme discipline created a relentless new pressure. To protect the currency, Singapore now had to accumulate massive reserves at all costs. In 1967, Dr. Goh Keng Swee returned to head the Ministry of Finance, having previously steered the Treasury from 1959 to 1965. He inherited a currency board legally bound to back every dollar with reserves, just as the global financial order began to splinter. The first blow landed in November 1967, when Great Britain devalued the pound by 14.3%. Because Singapore's reserves were heavily denominated in sterling, the devaluation instantly eroded the value of its holdings. 4 months later, in March 1968, the London gold pool collapsed, destroying the coordinated Western effort to keep gold at $35 an ounce. While other central banks maintained their trust in US dollars and British sterling, Goh refused to wait. He ordered the Treasury to diversify Singapore's reserves into German marks, Japanese yen, and Swiss francs. Yet, paper currencies were not enough. Goh wanted gold. But a major obstacle stood in his way. In early 1968, the United States enforced an informal ban prohibiting central banks from buying gold on the open market. In September 1968, Dr. Goh Keng Swee arrived in Washington, D.C. for the annual meeting of the International Monetary Fund. Behind the official schedule, Goh arranged a private meeting with South Africa's finance minister, Dr. Nicholas Diedericks. South Africa, facing international isolation and seeking liquid foreign exchange, was quietly searching for buyers to offload its gold reserves outside the official channels monitored by the United States. The two men met in a private room at the Statler Hilton Hotel. To guard against hidden listening devices, Diedericks walked over to the television set and turned the volume up before speaking. In the noisy room, they negotiated a massive, off-the-books transaction. Singapore would purchase 100 tons of gold directly from South Africa. They agreed on a price of $40 an ounce, a modest discount from the Zurich market rates, which then hovered around $45. The transaction totaled exactly $128.6 million, representing 3,215,075 troy ounces of gold. To secure the deal without exposing it to American intelligence, Diedericks took a physical $1 bill and tore it in half. He handed one half to Goh and kept the other. This torn bill would serve as the verification token. When Singapore's representative, Ngiam Tong Dao, arrived in Zurich to finalize the trade, he would match his half of the bill with the one held by the Swiss bank managing the transfer. No records of the agreement would be filed through traditional diplomatic registries. The transaction was completed through Credit Suisse in Zurich, bypassing the official Bretton Woods gold pool restrictions. This deal carried a heavy ethical weight. The gold originated from South Africa's apartheid regime, which was already facing growing international condemnation. Singapore's cabinet deliberately weighed the moral implications against the survival of their young currency. Ultimately, strategic survival won over diplomatic purity. When the global monetary order shattered in 1971 and the Bretton Woods system collapsed, Singapore's currency remained secure, protected by the hard asset anchor secured in that Washington hotel room. In late 1968, Dr. Goh Keng Swee established the Department of Overseas Investments, buying equities across the United States, Britain, West Germany, and Japan. By 1971, this team was absorbed into the newly created Central Bank, the Monetary Authority of Singapore, MAS. Although 9% annual growth and 4% budget surpluses flooded the Treasury with capital, rigid civil service salary ceilings left MAS unable to recruit elite investment talent. In 1973, this structural weakness was exposed. Inexperienced managers purchased Granite House, a London office building, for £2.3 million just before a massive property crash. The failed deal triggered a parliamentary investigation and a permanent statutory ban on central bank real estate purchases. In August 1980, Prime Minister Kuan Yew bypassed standard political structures, passing special legislation to appoint Deputy Prime Minister Goh Keng Swee as chairman of the Monetary Authority of Singapore. Goh, still serving as Education Minister, spent 7 months dissecting the central bank's operations and vetting personnel to isolate a new investment team. In London, Goh met Klaus Moser, deputy chairman of N.M. Rothschild and Sons. Moser introduced Richard Katz, an advisor who had structured sovereign funds for oil-rich Gulf states. Katz recommended a completely separate long-term investment vehicle, prompting Goh to request a formal proposal. Goh appointed Ng Kok Song as managing director. When rigid British pension and notice rules blocked recruitment from London, Ng sourced 3 top American managers in New York. To ensure long-term commitment, Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew required each candidate to bring his wife to the interview, assessing their stability. In February 1981, Lee subjected the Rothschild advisory team to a brutal grilling. When Richard Katz hesitated to name confidential clients, Lee countered that a 5-minute phone call would reveal them anyway. Impressed by their resolve, Lee approved a 6-month trial. GIC was founded in 1981. Today, Singapore's sovereign wealth stands as a shield against global instability, proving that national survival is engineered, not inherited. Which country do you think could pull off this level of strategic secrecy today? Let us know in the comments. Subscribe for more investigative histories.